All right. As usual, wait for some peoples to get in here. Let some humans get into the chat. I'm drinking another Mexican Coke this evening. We're gonna make that a live stream ritual. Anytime I live stream, I'm gonna drink Mexican Coke. Wait for some people to get in here. Hello, Volpecula. Hello, my friend. Great to see you as always. With you here, maybe I'll show you that teapot that I just got in. We can bore the shit out of everybody if there's just a couple people in here by just talking about tea the whole time. It'll be awesome. People will love that. Everybody loves tea, right? All right, let's see what's going on in the Discord. All right, to let all y'all know. All right. Oh, and ink, yeah. Man, I was serious. When I filmed that vlog a couple days ago, I'm editing that tonight. So I'm just taking a break from editing that, actually do this live stream. I talk about my ink collection. So you have that to look forward to. Like, literally no one but you will give a shit, but I'm gonna show some fountain pen inks. And I got a couple fountain pens here on my desk. My desk is filled with guns right now, but let's see. Yeah, I've got a Conklin, a Lamy, and a Monteverdi, and another Monteverdi. All the things you need, and a Pilot, but I don't use the Pilot as much as some of the others. Hello, Bobby. Greetings to you as well. So, while we're waiting on some people to fill in here in the chat, what is everybody up to this evening? What are y'all doing? Anything fun? Anything exciting? Anything gripping? Let's see. Nicholas says he has the big boy green Pelican fountain pen. Hell yeah, actually, I want to look at that thing. Let's see. Are you talking about the Sovereign, the Souverain? I don't know how you say it, or the M120. Those are both cool. Those both look awesome, and I'm really jealous. Let me see if I can link to one of those in the chat to see if it's the same one. Well, just while we're waiting on everybody to fill up, just so y'all know, I'm not gonna fucking talk about fountain pens the whole time. I mean, I could, but you know. Oh, the M1000. Okay. So, Volpecula took the dog to the vet. Is your dog okay? You know, hope nothing's going wrong there. Sean got home from work, ready to drive to college. Cool, man. That's cool. You can take some night classes. What classes are you taking? And Jeffrey says 9mm versus 10mm is a good topic. Awesome, man. Thank you. I hope we'll have some fun with this. It's gonna be a little bit different than the way most people discuss calibers. Like, I'm not trying to sort of like sit here and say that either caliber is actually better than the other. I'm just thinking it'd be cool to talk about what you guys use each caliber for and why. Okay, luckily Volpecula's dog, it's just heartworm pills. You know, I need to take my heartworm pills right now. You know, got it important to keep that heartworm free. And Sean is doing comp sci. Cool. Also, I just want to let y'all know this is going to be a shorter live stream than usual. I'm just doing this to take a break from editing the latest TGP video. This isn't going to be a crazy one. I just thought it'd be cool to have a discussion about, you know, like what I've been using 9mm for versus 10mm, and we're going to talk about some fixed blade knives. It's going to be knife show and tell, And Ryan, good to see you, man. I hope you're doing well. How was work and shit today? Yeah, me and Ryan were talking through the fucking hurricane the other day. You know, trying not to drown. It ended up being super anticlimactic, and I mean, here in South Carolina, for other people, it was climactic as fuck. But for us, it really wasn't that bad. But Sean's got his SE. Yeah, I've got some SEs too. That's one of the main things I want to talk about. I want to talk about why the SE is like the greatest camping knife of all time. But awesome. Ryan's lifting. Cool, man. Today was my rest day. I'll be back at it tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's arm day. I'm gonna be just fucking blasting myself tomorrow morning. It just seems right. I always do that on Tuesday morning. Like I'm always super like stressed out for the week, and you've had Monday, which is the worst day, out of the way. So lifting's like the only fun thing to do on Tuesday. So it's fun to go early in the morning and just like absolutely give yourself over to it and destroy your body. But all right, let's see. We've got about 10 people in here. Cool. Let's get started. So, do you guys want to talk about 9mm and 10mm, or do you want to talk about knives first? Which would you prefer? What's everybody's vote? Sucks. There's always this lag when you live stream. Ballistic knives, hell yeah. See, what we need is a 10mm knife. Like a knife that holds one 10mm in the handle with like a 2-inch barrel. It'd be awesome. Like we need it. I need this shit. All right, so far looking like everybody's mostly voting for Caliber. What do we got? Keep those votes rolling in. Also, I'm having some weird connection troubles, so if y'all see me disappear, I will come back. But, yeah, that's weird. Nick says he's going to get a 10mm for hiking, but after some research, decided not to spend the money for a 10mm Glock and just use 9mm hard cast bullets, similar performance, but better control. Sure, man. Yeah, you do you. If that's gonna work better for you, then yeah, sounds good to me. I don't know shit about hard cast bullets, so I'll leave that to the outdoors experts. Okay, so the vote is for Caliber. So how many of you guys have like a like what you'd call like a shit hits the fan kind of gun? Like I'm not the sort of person who believes that you need to have all kinds of like ludicrous preparedness for some sort of, hypothetical white guy apocalypse fantasy. But at the same time, it is good to have a larger gun that you could use in case of some sort of crisis. Like the nation has seen multiple weather crises and other issues. So it's really not a bad idea. And for me, the gun that I've chosen is the Glock 40 MOS in 10mm. I think it's a good choice for me for a lot of reasons. I shoot fairly often, so a big 10mm like that, I don't shoot it that differently than a 9mm. And some of the ammo that I've got's like 600 foot-pounds, and it doesn't have way more recoil than like a Glock 19 shooting plus P. So for me, 10mm is a good choice there because there is no downside in this case, like no performance downside. So what do you guys choose? Yeah, this is the bad thing about the lag is it's like I just I just kind of sit here for a while waiting for the chat to catch up. That's not y'all's fault. That's my poor connection and the YouTube lag. But while waiting for the chat to catch up, I'm just going to completely interrupt things and just continue talking, even though I asked y'all a question. But I'm not necessarily saying that a 10mm would work for any of you in the same role, or that you even need to have something for for that kind of role. But if you shot a lot of Magnum revolver, 10 millimeters really just not that bad. Like, people talk about it like the recoil was just tremendous. But, like, I grew up shooting a lot of 40 Smith & Wesson because that was the only gun I had at the time. And 40 has a really snappy, unpleasant recoil impulse, I find. And 10 millimeter, it's a similar kind of recoil impulse, but in a bigger gun. It works for me. All right, so yeah, William knew that I was gonna pick the fucking G40 MOS. Absolutely, I love that gun. Jose says, I got my G40 for the lulls, but it handles far better than I expected. I know, man, right? Like, it's really awesome, and we'll talk more about the recoil of that thing a little bit later. But Flying Tower. The recoil is super, super tame. Sean says, gonna pick my AK and 7.62. Good for people things, good for deer, hogs for hunting, 357 Magnum revolver. If I was stuck with a handgun, 40 Smith & Wesson scared me away from 10 millimeter. Yeah, I understand why it would, and a lot of people are put off from 10 millimeter by 40. But I want to talk about the recoil impulse difference, because there is a difference between 40 and 10 millimeter. You wouldn't expect there to be. But even in guns that are similarly sized, like let's say between the Glock Model 22 and the Glock 21, it feels to me like 10 millimeter. There's going to be more recoil overall, but it feels like the recoil impulse is slower, if that makes any sense. Hang on one second. I know this is really annoying, but I'm receiving kind of an important phone call here. Hang on one second. I don't know if y'all could hear that. That's really funny. I had been I'd been waiting on this guitar amp for a really long time, and I thought I was getting the phone call that it finally came in from the company, and I was not. They were calling me about some shit I needed for work. So anyway. Damn, that's really funny. It's gonna forever be in this live stream, me getting the fuck up to talk on the phone to Sweetwater. But okay, so Sean, we were talking about you choosing the AK. We were talking about 40 Smith & Wesson and the 10 millimeter recoil impulse. Yeah, so I find that 10 millimeter has a sort of slower recoil impulse, if that makes sense. Though the rearward motion is heavier. But we're talking about handguns right now. We're not talking about AKs. We're talking. I mean, we'll talk about rifles a different day. Volpecchio says, I carry and shoot 9 millimeter. If I do have a shit hits the fan gun, it would be my AR. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he says he definitely shoots 10 millimeter slower than 9, but have yet to shoot a G40. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that 10 millimeter is the same speed as 9 millimeter. I'm just saying that the performance gap, both with the right gun and with some training, is not as extreme as you would expect it to be. But yeah, of course, look, everyone here is going to objectively agree that a rifle is better. We're just not talking about rifles today. We'll talk about that another time. But yeah, man, I mean, like, rifle is always better than pistol. That's just the way it is. We can take that as fact here in this zone. My good friend Nathaniel says, my wife and I tried the G23 back-to-back with the G19, and according to her, after a couple rounds, she didn't notice the difference between the two. Very interesting. That's a little bit ammo dependent, though. I'd want to know what y'all were shooting. I mean, it's not going to change the pressure curve so much, but it will change the sort of overall recoil. So, yeah, well, let me know what ammo y'all were shooting. I'd like to know the difference. I'd like to see a difference that she felt between sort of defensive stuff and range stuff. That would be interesting. Nicholas says, shit hits the fan, 9mm Glock 45 and AR-15 with 22 LR conversion kit. Yeah, solid, man. Yeah, William says, I'm prepared to be shat upon, but I have a Glock 22 loaded with 175 grain critical defense. A 20-pound recoil spring smooths it out noticeably, and I only paid $279 for it used. Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, if you paid $279 for it, like, that's fine. Look, I had a Glock 22 for years. I just wasn't a big fan, but I had it because it was the only gun I could afford. So, look, for $279, fuck it. That's fine. Sean says, so it's like 45 ACP or 45 Colt goes up high, but it doesn't snap your wrist instantly. Yeah, actually, that's exactly the right way to put it. I was a bit scared to make that comparison earlier because I thought people would say, oh, he said it feels like 45 ACP. It has more recoil than 45 ACP, but it is the same feeling where it's sort of like, it pushes back slowly, but it's a lot of push. But haircut looking good. Praise to your barber. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, she does a good job. She's really awesome. Yeah, I think Ryan referred me to her, and he was right. Them some good haircuts. I love it. Flying Tower says G40 is a fantastic woods gun. Has some flexibility to shoot 40 Smith & Wesson with just a barrel and spring swap. Not a bad deal. Yeah, I don't know anything about shooting 40 Smith & Wesson in it. I think the barrel and the spring swap is a much better idea than what some people do, just sticking the 40s in there and shooting them. But yeah, man, the G40, it's like the pinnacle of woods gun technology right there. It really is. It's great. Not a bad deal at all. I really like it. But yeah, so that's why I choose this gun for that. Now, if I perceived more recoil or a greater drop in performance than I do, I absolutely would not prefer 10 millimeter in that case. But this gun really made me rethink 10 millimeter, and then it got me shooting some of the smaller 10 millimeters. Let's see. I think I've got every 10 millimeter that I've got over here on the table. But this and the Glock 20, the Glock 21, you could do so much worse in terms of performance. Let's see. I'm trying to make a point here. Let's see. I wanted to look at some recoil spring information here. I keep saying I just want to make sure I get this information right before I actually spout. I'm having some tremendously bad connection difficulties here today, and I don't know what the deal is. Yeah. Well, I can't find the data that I was looking for, but I keep saying fucking the Glock 21. I keep meaning to say the 20. The Glock 20 and the Glock 40. They have relatively mild recoil for 10 millimeter. So I would choose those over a 9 millimeter in that case for me because I have really specific tastes. I've shot a bunch of Magnum revolvers. I've been shooting Magnum revolvers for years. So that makes sense, but it probably doesn't for most people. I've also noticed something kind of interesting. This metal frame, 10 millimeter, the classic Smith & Wesson 1006 or 1006, whatever you want to call it. This has substantially more recoil than the Glock 40, and that's because this steel frame doesn't flex at all. So the gun that you're going to shoot the 10 millimeter in matters a lot. And that's why I was trying to find that recoil spring data to talk about how, with a metal gun, you can still screw around with that a little bit. But a lot of it is just 10 millimeter kind of makes the most sense just in a Glock, at least as far as I've been able to tell. So 9 millimeters benefits are for the average person. This makes the most sense just in any situation. Like, I've shot so many Magnum revolvers, I have those techniques to transfer over, but most people aren't going to be able to sort of take a ton of time off to learn these extra techniques just for one caliber, when if you know how to shoot 9 millimeter, you're good on every gun that fires that caliber. So, keep that in mind. 10 millimeter USP win. Man, soon. I hope soon. Anytime. William Nance says he'd still prefer a G40. Sure, man. Yeah, absolutely. Chris Fishback says 10 millimeters great, but 450 SMC out of a USP expert is the tits. Sure, man. I've never shot it, but probably so. William Nance says, do you prefer heavier bullets in 10 millimeter or lighter and faster? I like the recoil impulse of the 180s just because that's what I'm the most familiar with. A 180 grain bullet going at about 600 foot-pounds. That generally has worked best for me, and that's what I had the most experience with. So I have my recoil technique down. Like, I know I've just talked a lot about recoil technique, but I can't overstate that. Like, that matters a ton with 10 millimeter. It's the difference between it working and not. And so once you kind of find a load weight that works for you and you've really learned how to shoot it, you're probably going to stick with that. And for me, it's been the 180s. But Nathaniel says that you've got to build the hell out of a metal pistol frame for it to hold up to 10 millimeter in the long run. Yeah, man, that's true. I mean, look at how beefy this is. Like, this fucking thing weighs like 2.5 pounds. Now, this still has some benefits over the Glock despite the heavier recoil. I know that sounds crazy, but it does. This gun has a way better trigger, and my groups are better as a result. Well, okay, I don't want to say it's just because of the trigger, because it's not just that. It's that this is generally a much more comfortable pistol to hold. This pistol is really kind of the pinnacle of comfort in many ways. It's just lovely. It also has brilliant sights on it already. But yeah, it is a beefy motherfucker to let it stand up to 10 millimeter. But Volpagula says shooting 9 millimeter is also much cheaper, making it more likely you will train more. Yes, and I was only able to train so hard with 10 millimeter because I had bought a ton of it before the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, before ammo prices shot up, I think we were paying what, $250 for a case or something like that. It wasn't that bad, and I got a ton of them, so I was able to train my ass off. Another downside to 10 millimeter is that it wears you out more at the range. You know, with 9 millimeter, you can go and shoot 1,000 rounds in a day. You don't have to exert like that much effort to make that happen. But with 10 millimeter, you're going to be worn the fuck out by the time you've put 300 or 400 rounds through it from that recoil control. Because again, it's more of a sort of active recoil mitigation technique, just like shooting a 357 revolver or a 44 mag. Sean says, my philosophy is usually handguns suck, so I'd rather have less recoil. You know, that's also fair. And generally, that's my philosophy too, unless I'm able to find something that doesn't sacrifice speed. Because otherwise, you know, we would just drop down lower and lower. But when I realized that this was only, you know, marginally slower for me than something like a Glock 17, then this started to make a lot of sense. Otherwise, it wouldn't. There'd be absolutely no reason. Volpacula says, I would love the opportunity to shoot 10 more because I think it would be good for working on my recoil control, but it's just so expensive. Yeah, man, it's real expensive right now. But again, wasn't before. Osmium says, yeah, Sean, mega optimizing pistol ballistics is marginal as opposed to optimizing shot placement. Yeah, you know, so some folks say, you know, a 9 millimeter putting out 300 foot-pounds or whatever, you know, 350 versus 600. Well, you know, I've never shot anybody or studied ballistics heavily. I'm probably not going to. But when I look at gel tests and things, I think there is some benefit to something that at that power range. Like, there's probably not much difference between you know, 40 Smith & Wesson or 9 millimeter, you know, where there's that slim of a power difference. But, you know, an additional 250 foot-pounds, I think there's going to be some significant difference there. And if I'm not experiencing that much more recoil and my performance is the same, then at that point, really, why not? And some of the gel tests do show that there's a lot more shock being transferred into the blocks with 10 millimeter than with 9 millimeter. But just be careful about the ammo that you're choosing. Talking about 10 millimeter is tricky because some of it is so weak it's just not even worth it. It's not worth the larger pistol or the extra trouble or the extra expense some of it is. So just beware what ammo you're buying and what that's going to do. Jose says EAA is the cheapest way into 10 millimeter. Maybe, I don't know. William says, now I want to see a review on that Smith & Wesson. Yeah, you and Nathaniel seconds that. You guys will, I promise. I may have already started on it. So that's one of my big projects right now. That Smith & Wesson. I know I just talked about it having more recoil, but it's one of my favorite guns ever. So I'm gonna do a nice full-length review on that one. All Dashes asks, do you ever think that mainstream ammo companies, i.e. Federal, Winchester, etc., will ever make true 10 millimeter and not load it to 40 Smith & Wesson velocity? Yeah, I mean, some of those folks do offer stuff that is approaching it, that's getting close. Some of the Blazer brass practice ammo that I use is said to be 575. 575 foot-pounds. That's pretty awesome. And once you push 10 millimeter really far, then you are going to see massive changes in recoil and performance, and you're going to get a lot slower, and then it might make sense to switch back to 9 millimeter. So I don't know. There's got to be a happy place there somewhere, and for me, it's about at the 600 foot-pounds mark. Flying Tower says mainstream 10 millimeter loaded to the caliber's real potential would be awesome. Yeah, absolutely. CNFer says, not that it would matter here in Europe, but I don't think I would want to carry the extra weight that comes with 10 millimeter. There is a bit of extra weight. That's true. This isn't though like a heavy pistol necessarily. It's not like super heavy, but yeah, I mean it is heavier than this. Volpecchio asks, does 10 have a tendency to over-penetrate? That could be something worth thinking about if you carry in public. Yes, and that's a reason why I say that for me, this is that kind of, shit hits the fan kind of gun. Because yes, it does over-penetrate. Absolutely. So, keep that in mind. This 10 millimeter is probably not a super great, everyday carry option, but that's not what I'm talking about here, That's a sort of this is a sort of shit hits the fan / woods gun, that kind of thing. Nathaniel says, looking at my ammo spreadsheet, the average 10 millimeter FMJ has 494 foot-pounds as compared to 340 for 9 millimeter and 412 for 40. Yeah, that sounds right. But the averages only tell you what most manufacturers are loading to. You're gonna have to look around to find what you need. There are absolutely folks loading sort of at the upper end of that, and I know I keep saying it, but for range stuff, Blazer brass is at the top end, 575 foot-pounds, and then look for hollow point stuff that's still sort of in that pretty similar range. And so 340 for 9 millimeters. So yeah, I mean, if you're hitting 600 foot-pounds out of this gun, which has a slightly longer barrel, with some loads that doesn't matter that much. But yeah, it's a gain of 250, 260 foot-pounds. That's not shabby at all. Drew the Dogman says you and Hop have the same voice. Do we? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe has Hop had a bunch of surgeries? Because that's why my voice sounds like this. Because had a bunch of surgeries. Yeah, my voice didn't sound like this before pre-stomach surgeries. That's for sure. Flying Tower says over-penetration would definitely be a concern in urban carry in the woods. We want all the penetration. Yeah, and again, because I'm not advocating that 10 millimeter be carried as your EDC. I'm actually not advocating for 10 millimeter period. If it appeals to you, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But this is my sort of shit hits the fan gun. To me, there's too much over penetration for public. I probably wouldn't use it in the house for the same reason unless I knew where everybody was. Sean says, what do you think about how people carry 10 millimeter for bear country, and then the internet says you need at least 45-70 to hunt anything? I felt like there was a weird caliber discrepancy in FUD lore. Yeah, there's a lot of weird discrepancies in FUD lore. Man, I don't know. I'm not a hunter. You'd have to defer to one of them for that. But yeah, I've always thought that was a little weird. I mean, 5.56. 5.56 would kill a deer dead, very dead. But I know in a lot of places you're not supposed to to use that. Jose says like 10 for the woods and 380 for the street. That might be undercompensated. Yeah, man. I mean, that's actually not a bad idea. Like, y'all know I love mouse guns. Like, I love 32. Like, just for day-to-day carry. Like, you know, the 10 millimeter is pretty excessive to have in your pocket, like while you go to the grocery store or something. 9 millimeter is better in every way for something like that. 9 millimeter is common. There's less recoil. It's not going to overpenetrate with the right ammo. It could still overpenetrate with the wrong ammo. Yeah, 9 millimeter makes the most sense for most people. But for the woods and for like the apocalypse, 10 millimeter is probably where it's at. CNever says, isn't 12 hit shit the fan caliber? You mean like 12 gauge? Sure, man. I mean, yeah, 12 gauge shotgun's a damn fine weapon. Flying Tower says, long guns will always be superior to handguns, but it isn't always practical to have them in your hands. 10 millimeter is about as much as most people can shoot accurately when under stress. Absolutely. I totally agree. Rifle is always where it's at, and 10 millimeter is kind of the most power that you can have in your hands reasonably for most people. Like us revolver shooters, some of the more powerful 357 loads, some of the more powerful 44 loads. Yeah, but for most people, I've had friends that just like they didn't even want to fucking shoot my 44s and 357s, and I don't blame them for that. And it's not like I'm some fucking, you know, like recoil immune guy. It's just that you shoot them long enough and you abuse your hands in the beginning, and eventually it doesn't hurt so much, and it's all right. All Blanks says, what do you think about carrying a comped 10 millimeter to tame the recoil? I don't know if I'd carry it though. Like EDC, like maybe. Because of the penetration, I don't know if I would EDC 10 millimeter regardless of the situation. For shit hits the fan, I feel so stupid saying that. Absolutely. Or like some sort of natural disaster where I could, you know, openly carry a gun. Totally, I would have a comp on my 10 millimeter. That'd make it even easier to shoot. I would totally do that. Absolutely. Volpecchio says, in my mind, for a woods gun, having an auto-loading 10 millimeter is better than having a more powerful revolver, but I still wonder what the difference between 10 millimeter and 45 long Colt is on something like a Bear. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I did the revolver thing in the woods for a long time, and 6 rounds of 357 or 44 is fantastic, but it's 15 rounds of 10 millimeter. Again, 600 foot-pounds or more, depending on the loading, like those hard-cast buffalo bore rounds. Those, though, I would have a hard time shooting well. That, I don't know, you know, that might be a little bit too much recoil, even for somebody who likes shooting revolvers. And but yeah, something like that, 600 foot-pounds, having 15 of them in your pocket, that's going to beat 6. I think that's absolutely fantastic. The difference between 10 millimeter and 45 long Colt on something like a Bear, man, I don't know. But some of the 45 long Colt loadings are crazy. You know, Buffalo Bore makes some that are pretty wild. 45 long Colt, I didn't know this until I was talking to another revolver enthusiast, but 45 long Colt is ridiculously versatile, surprisingly. John asks, did you already say what your favorite 10 millimeter pistol is? It's the Glock 40 MOS. Well, practically it's the Glock 40 MOS, but really we all know this is the best 10 millimeter pistol, even though it's worse than the Glock. But it's better. I like it more. Shano says, now that Glock has a rifle, maybe we can get an 11 millimeter. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Jose says, I saw Kentucky Ballistics put a Buffalo Bore 10 millimeter through 4 16-inch blocks of gel recently. Yeah, I saw that too. And that's one of the reasons I'm making this video, because it got me thinking, like, oh yeah, that's why I love 10 millimeters so much. I almost forgot. Yeah, it's that was something to see. But again, that brings us back to, we've got a ton of power, but we've also got over penetration to worry about. So keep that in mind. That's the reason I'm not advocating for 10 millimeter for EDC. I think that's one of the biggest marks against 10 millimeter in general. So, you know, I think as we discuss this, we're still finding that 9 millimeter is better in every way, but 10 millimeter is more niche and cooler. Nathaniel says, how do the G40 versus the 1006 versus the Delta Elite stack up on coolness, though? Man, that's the hardest question of the night. I would have to have all three. Yeah, I'd have to have all three of them, I think. Yep, man. In fact, I bet that's going to happen down the line. You know, you and I have been talking a little bit about 1911s lately. I really want a Delta Elite, and you just put the thought in my head that it needs to be a 10 millimeter. Yeah. Oh, that would be nice. They're all equal in coolness, but I think the 1006 and the Delta Elite aesthetically are a step higher. A couple of the Delta Elites that I've handled over the years have been really excellent. CNever says only energy transferred to your target counts. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Sometimes you want penetration and sometimes you don't. In a woods gun, you do want penetration. You know, and I know some people talk about vehicle penetration and stuff. I don't fucking know anything about that. Maybe that's valuable, maybe it's not. But in a woods gun, penetration is valuable, because you also might need to penetrate underbrush and whatnot. If you think you might be defending yourself from two-legged targets, no, you don't want that much penetration. But then you can switch to some sort of really awesome hollow point, because there are some hollow points that are pushing 600 foot-pounds and beyond as well, loaded for 10 millimeter. But I can't say it enough. Just you need to look at the specs of your ammo. Don't just go buy 10 millimeter ammo and think, oh yeah, I'm getting exactly what I need here. There's a good chance that you're not. I mean, I guess 9mm ammo is like that too. Some of it performs very poorly and some of it performs quite well. All Blanks says, what about 10mm for PCCs? We have the CMMG Banshee, but not much else, I think. You'd have a bigger framed firearm to soak up the recoil and have way more power on tap than a handgun. I explored this idea for a while. We talked about it a bit on the Discord. I was thinking about getting one of these for the reason that you mentioned. It also will, I think the Banshee takes these magazines as well. So that's great. That would be really, really cool. But, the problem with that is it still comes back to, if you're going to have something like that, why not just have a 5.56? Because even a 5.56 with a 7.5-inch barrel is going to have the same amount of power as a 10mm. It's going to have a lot less recoil. I don't know if it's cheaper. I guess it's probably about the same price right now at the moment. But you're going to have more accessories, regular magazines. The list goes on. So no, I would still go 5.56 even with a really short barrel, because there's still a ton of power there. And there's also some evidence indicating that really the 5.56 is less likely to overpenetrate. Although going at that low speed, I don't know if I can fully stand behind that statement. I don't know enough about how 5.56 behaves at lower speeds, but it's still going to be really, really powerful. A 5.56 with like a 7-inch barrel, all your accessories translate. I'd still go 5.56. Yeah, on a PCC. I think I'd pass on a 10mm handgun. Although now though Nathaniel's talking about the MP5-10, that is a bit of a difference, because the MP5 system pretty radically lowers the recoil. I've shot a 9mm MP5 a lot. The roller delayed system is fantastic, and the MP5 has so much less recoil than like a blowback 9mm. So I don't know. I'd have to try the MP5-10. That could be a winner. But Volpecula says, for a woods gun, I'm trying to think of a huge advantage that 9 would have over 10 other than recoil. In my mind, 9mm is just underpowered for bear-like animals. That could just be FUD lore, though. I don't know. I mean, I just feel better with the 10mm in the woods, and since my performance doesn't decrease much with the 10mm, I just go with that, because like you, yeah, I don't know what 9mm does to bear-like animals. I don't know either. I'm sure 9mm would fuck up an angry deer, but hell, I don't know. But for me, I'm probably going to stick with the 10. But Jose says, are we losing our minds about 5.7 per the current trend? Recoil seems like it might be light enough to justify the cartridge. I don't think we're losing our minds. I think it's a good option. I've never understood why it wasn't a little bit more popular to begin with, I think. It's low recoil, a lot of foot-pounds. Yeah, I find it very easy to shoot. Every time I've shot it, I'm always like, wow, it's kind of hilarious how little recoil this has. I mean, there are some definite benefits there, but it's not like 5.7 is going to sort of like, take over the market and overwhelm 9mm or anything like that. But Nathaniel says 9mm is well tuned for humans, but I don't think it's a great idea for center mass shots on a bear. I think that's true. All right, so we've talked a lot about the calibers. We've talked longer than I actually intended to, so I'm not sure if I should call it here or or if we should move on to fixed blades. But I'll gauge what you guys are thinking. What do you guys like fixed blades? Do you guys carry them? Do you just use them for camping? What do you guys think about fixed blades and why? I'll just sit here and wait forever for this to go through. Actually, no. I think the better thing to do is to have a separate stream about that. Maybe. What do you guys think? Yeah, I think let's have a separate stream for that, because like I don't want to most people are probably ready to go to dinner and stuff. The concurrent viewers are dropping a little bit too now that we're switched to knives, so we'll do that another day. Besides, I need to get back to editing my my vlog. I just wanted to get on here and talk to you guys a little bit, and also just kind of when we have these discussions, y'all are giving me excellent information for videos. Whether you know it or not, you just helped me work on a video. So I really appreciate that. I had selfish motives for wanting to talk to you, but yeah, thanks for talking this out with me. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I will talk to you soon. And we'll do the fixed blade knife stream. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Look for a video soon.